Hello, my friends. Hello, 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 and welcome to Phyrexian Phylology in Philly. I'm very excited to host this panel for your viewing pleasure, my friends, as we get stuck into the nitty-gritty, the crunchy bits of the Phyrexian language. Phyrexian language has been around for quite a while. We've seen it showcased on many very high-profile cards. And today, we have the two custodians, the stewards of this language, who are going to join me on stage in just a minute to talk us through some of the finer points, some of the details of the Phyrexian language, and, as I've mentioned before, share some never-before shared details about Phyrexian. So, those of you out in the crowd, I don't know if there are any enthusiasts, people who are sitting here waiting, ready, champing at the bit to learn more about a language that you've already picked apart and decoded. I've seen that people have put a lot of work into it over the years, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with all the strange markings we've seen on some cards. But even if you're brand new and you know nothing about Phyrexian, well, you're going to learn a thing or two. I can see some people down the front with pens and papers ready to go. Love to see it. Look at this. Fantastic. You're going to learn something today. By the end of today's session, you will be across the Phyrexian alphabet, its number system as well, right? We're going to learn some basic magic phrases so you can actually conduct okay, well, all right. I've just seen someone wearing a mask in the front row with my face on it, so thank you very much for that. That's good. Available now at all good reputable merch shops. My goodness me, thank you so much for that. Anyway, basic magic phrases so you can conduct at least part of a game of magic in Phyrexian, and we're going to give you the opportunity to ask questions of the mother of language. And, as I mentioned before, learning never before revealed details about Phyrexian. But I want you to now, please, join me in welcoming to the stage our panel of experts from Wizards, all the way from Washington. We have Mary, Kathryn, Amiotte, and Bella Guo. Please join me in welcoming to the stage. Thanks so much for joining us. It's so good to have the two of you here to talk us through the Phyrexian language, something that the two of you have been working on for a long time. Now, I'm a professional, you know this. I've done my homework. I wanted to come and impress the two of you with how much knowledge I've already got together. So when I greet you for the first time here, I'd say, Ngatang? That's hello in Phyrexian.
I feel like you got
Ngatang?
you actually, I think you've improved significantly since when we first rehearsed.
Well, look, I'll take it. I will take a significant improvement. That's good. This is not a language that's very easy for us to speak as humans, as we'll come to. But before we actually talk about Phyrexian and the language itself, let's get to know you two a little bit more. Starting with you, MK. Sorry. What was your path to actually getting to not even becoming the mother of language, looking after Phyrexian? What was your path to working for Wizards?
Well, I had a pretty unconventional path getting to Wizards. Not that like anyone has a super conventional path getting to Wizards. Mm-hmm. I started off as managing a comics and game store. I ran events. I was the TO. I was the magic manager. And from there, I got into Wizards of the Coast as a contractor on customer service.
On customer service, wow, okay.
I answered the phone.
Yeah, yeah.
And after doing my year on customer service, I was converted to a full-time employee, and I moved to the WPN team. That's the Wizards Play Network team, where I was a store specialist, and I worked with stores. I was basically the contact in the building for any like big picture questions, things like how do I increase turnout at my FNMs, or like how do I merchandise this display, those sorts of things. And it was from there that I am now a game producer on Magic Design. And that's actually because my current manager saw how I was managing the Phyrexian language. It's like, wow, you'd probably be a good producer.
Oh, right. So that actually had a part in sort of advancing and developing your career within WotC. Well, that's quite interesting. We'll come back to that because I want to talk to you, Bella, as well about your path to working at WotC. How did you actually get to work inside the building?
Yeah, so I actually started at Wizards as a cloud infrastructure engineer. Those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means I manage the back-end things for all of Wizards that you never think about as long as everything is working correctly.
Right.
I started basically at the same exact time as Mary Kathryn, also as a contractor, and also doing nothing related to the Phyrexian language. Over time, I started working more and more with Arena, and I also on back-end services. And then recently, within the last year, I moved over to the Arena features team, where I work on things like making the buttons work.
Oh, right. A very important part of Arena, when the buttons are working well. That's a very important aspect of the program, having correct button working, exactly. Well, very interesting to hear that, this isn't, that Phyrexian is not, I guess what got you inside the building or anything. I guess it was never going to get you inside the building, but it wasn't. This isn't the focal point of your career at Wizards. It's something that's sort of grown from that. Bella, do you have a background in fictional languages, in constructed languages, in any of this sort of area that drew you towards Phyrexian once you started working for WotC?
Yeah, sure. I learned English actually as my third language. Before I spoke English, I spoke both Mandarin and German. Tragically, I stopped speaking German at a very young age, and I have since forgotten most of it. And as for fictional languages, well, a group of friends I went to college with, they went to the summer camp. I didn't go to the summer camp, but they went to the summer camp called Canada USA Math Camp. It was about math. And at this math camp, they developed this language called Food Tongue, and it has two unique properties, which is that every word in it is an English food word, and that the second unique property is that there are no direct translations allowed.
I had a look at this when you told me about it. So for those of you who don't know Food Tongue, you can go online and have a look at it. It is absurd. There's no, as you say, there's no one-to-one translation. There's no dictionary. You have to kind of just figure it out, and every word is like curry, banana, papaya, rice. It's ridiculous, right? But it's a real language in as much sense as any language is real. I mean, we say this is a made-up language. All languages are made up. What about your language background, MK? Did you have a similar experience with weird, strange, made-up languages, or did you speak languages at home, or?
Well, no. So I grew up in a very rural part of the middle of the country, so there wasn't a lot of language diversity. Actually, most people in my immediate family are bilingual or trilingual, but none of them share their second language besides English, and so I never picked any of their languages up. That said, my background is in cultural anthropology. It's what I went to school for, and that did include quite a bit of linguistics, and it's like the primary driver is why I was interested in Phyrexian in the first place.
Right, so you've got a bit of a sort of academic background with what you're working with today with language as the mother of language, the title that was sort of given to you. Talk us through this, how you've gone, I mean, very different paths, the two of you. Starting with you, MK, talk us through how you transitioned from, the customer service to the game design, or what did you call it before?
WPN.
WPN,
Wizards
sorry.
Play Network team.
To managing a fictional language. Like, talk us through how you got to that point.
Well, it started at Card Design Workshop. Bella and I went to Card Design Workshop together, and she dragged me there because I was terrified of going, because this was while I was a customer service contractor, and I didn't want designers judging my bad card designs. But the guy who led Card Design Workshop was the previous Phyrexian linguist, Eli.
Right.
And I had told him I had a background in cultural anthropology. I loved the Phyrexians. I thought the language was super cool. And so he started running classes, and he actually invited me to come to his classes at Wizards to learn Phyrexian, and I made Bella go along with me.
So these classes, Bella, were these like actual like school, university type classes? Like, you went and sat down and there was a whiteboard and they walked you through stuff as like a college syllabus almost?
Yeah, exactly. There were lectures once a week where you took notes. So actually, at the very beginning, when Mary Kathryn and I first met, I don't know how I dragged you to Card Design Workshop, but I'm pretty certain we met there.
We did not meet there. We met at draft night. I remember this.
All right. Anyways. So there were these lectures, we had to take notes. But this was back when I had just gotten converted into a full-time employee, and Mary Kathryn was still a contractor with customer support. And so Teams called her in from my laptop, and I'd take good notes for her, we'd share notes, and then we'd go and do the homework together.
So hang on, so when you couldn't make it to the class, you're sitting there on a laptop looking at what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I actually, I was doing chat support for product replacement at the time, and so I was double queuing chat support and the Phyrexian language class.
You had to make sure you didn't give your answers in Phyrexian to people on the chat support. Yeah, right. Wow, that's really interesting. So this class, was it pretty it's pretty difficult, I imagine, to try to learn this entirely new language in these classes?
Yeah, at the end of it, I got converted in the middle of it, and there was like one day at the towards the end that we were in the class, and it was just Bella and I, and it had been just Bella and I for a while. The class started out with like 12 people in it. And Eli's like, well, it's a good thing you're both FTEs, because you're the ones learning it.
Right, so like FT, full-time employees.
Yes.
Right, so the two of you two were the only people, Bella, that had the staying power to make it all the way to the end.
Yeah, we held each other accountable.
Yeah, right. Nice, very good. Like having a gym buddy or something like that, a Phyrexian language buddy. So let's talk about then your transition from people who, were being taught Phyrexian, the apprentices, to becoming the masters. I understand there's an interesting story about when Eli left Wizards and sort of passed the crown on to you, I guess.
Yeah, I had previously, I'd been Eli's second, and what I'd mostly been doing previously was managing the resources, the lexicon, our wiki, and all of our documentation. And I had just been Eli's backup.
For Phyrexian.
For Phyrexian,
right,
yeah. And his last day, he sent me a message in Phyrexian that said, "I proclaim you mother of languages."
So that was how, rather than a, "Dear madam, you will find," like not a professionally worded email, an actual Phyrexian.
Yeah.
Well, that's very, very cool indeed. So that was sort of your ascension to being the main steward and custodian of this language now.
Yeah. Right.
Well, let's talk about the language itself. That's what we're here to do. And we can bring up now some stuff that might be familiar to many people in the audience. You may have seen this stuff here. The alphabet, the Phyrexian alphabet. You can see it on many of these cards here that have been released recently. But the Phyrexian alphabet here, and I want to talk to you, MK, about this alphabet that I think will be familiar to many people here. Some of its, I guess, attributes, some of the things that make it different from the alphabet that we use, or maybe some of the similarities it has. Talk us through what we're seeing here on this.
So like this stuff you're seeing on the slides, this is old news. Y'all already read the Daily MTG article that Bella and I wrote, I'm sure. But something that you might not know about the alphabet is that the IPA-ish characters that are on the left, those actually came before the glyphs. The language itself was created separate from the glyphs as a conlang in and of itself, and then the glyphs were designed to match it.
So the language came before the representation that we see. And you said the IPA things we can see on the screens here. These are like the weird. I mean, there's some of these. The 26 Latin characters that we use, but some of them are very strange, from Greek and Icelandic and all that sort of stuff. What's the IPA?
So that's the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Okay.
And I say IPA-ish because there's some notable deviations, because some of the consonants that Phyrexian uses are a little different, and we'll get to that. But it's basically an agreed-upon understanding of like symbols that match to sounds.
Yeah.
And that's how we can sound out these words.
Right, and that's important when, like, in the real world, when we're talking about, again, I don't want to say made up languages, because again, languages are all made up, but for example, the letter V in German makes an F sound in English, right? Whereas if you want to make the V sound in German, you need a W. So it's no good using those glyphs when you're dealing with pronunciation in a vacuum. You need something that represents that by itself, regardless of which language you're speaking, and that's where the IPA comes in.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're looking at these glyphs here, so I'm pointing at the ones that we can see. When we're looking at these glyphs here that the audience can see up on the screens, is this a typical sort of, if we were to break down English, for instance, would we be using similar IPA, like the number of different sounds, or is Phyrexian, does it have many more sounds or fewer?
Actually, let's go to the next slide on consonants, because I think that it shows it a lot better. Notably, there's a ton of consonants here. Phyrexian has a lot more consonants than English does, and it has variations on consonants that English doesn't have. So you can see there's 2 rows horizontally here that mention sliced and clanked consonants. Both those rows are metallic consonants, which means that they're accompanied by metallic noises. One is accompanied with a slice that's like dragging a knife over a sharpener, roughly. And the other one is accompanied by like a metallic clank. It's more like a disharmonious bell. It's not like a fully metal clank, but it kind of rings a little bit. And these are consonants that without metal bits in our mouths we can't say.
So if you're still a teenager with your braces in, maybe you could get there.
Get away with it.
Tell us about this table here. This is something that I guess in the world of academic linguistics you would use. I've seen terms like glottal and uvular and fricative and all that sort of stuff. This is pretty crunchy stuff. How necessary is it when you're building a fictional language to start incorporating this? It makes me think you take it pretty seriously.
Well, yeah, you got to be able to say the words. What use is it? If you're looking across at the table from, should be left to right, labial to glottal, that shows where the sound is in your mouth from the front, moving to the back.
Oh, labial, lips, and glottal all the way to the back. Okay, sure.
Yeah, and then the column on the side talks about the manner of articulation, and that explains what the sound is, not just where it is.
Right, and this is something that would be used in quote-unquote real-world linguistics,
academia.
But it's also been used to sort of, I guess, stratify and help to explain how Phyrexian works as well.
Yeah.
Really fascinating to see the way that real-world mechanics of this sort of thing come into something that is essentially, again, made up. Again, all languages are made up. Anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about, did you want to, is there more stuff you want to talk about? But sorry, go ahead.
A pretty cool thing to point out that I don't know if people have noticed. You see the row that says trill up above, and it's an R. What that means is that Phyrexian doesn't actually have like an English R. Phyrexians all roll their R's. So not only are people here, if they're going to want to be able to speak Phyrexian, going to have to get some metal bits in their mouth, they also have to practice rolling their R's.
Rolling their R's, okay. Well, in some languages, that's taken as read, so maybe non-English speakers will have a bit of an easier time with that at least, Was there other stuff you wanted to get across with the alphabet? Because
I do want to point out the vowels.
Okay, let's talk about the vowels. Yeah. Is that the next slide? We got them here? All right, okay. So, again, this is something we would see in academia, these charts. I
mostly want to point out that it's notable for how few vowels there are. You saw a ton of consonants. Phyrexians like consonants. Phyrexians don't really like vowels. Like usually, with some exception, there are never two vowels next to each other in a word unless it's a plural word.
Okay, so it's a very harsh sounding, clanking.
Yep.
So, okay, interesting. There we go. All right, so much more of a focus on those consonants, some of which are two bits of metal being smashed together. Wow. Okay, let's move on and talk about the numbers. And Bella, I'm going to jump over to you for this one here, because this number system, during the rehearsals, you tried to talk me through some of the details of it. I'm not a mathematologist. That will surprise many in the audience, I know, not something that I've always been able to get my head around. But this is a number system that is very different from our own, Bella.
Well, actually, it's not all that different from ours. I think we would actually, the only difference is that it's in base 16.
I think that counts as a very big difference. I mean, base 10 for some of us is hard enough. Going into base 16, we're really, I mean, that is used though, isn't it? Base 16, it's hexadecimal, used in computing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the reason why we chose this base, is that it's like a very easy base to do math in. It's great for doubling. And we've also broken it up into 4 sets of 4, which I'm sure the Phyrexians and Gin-Cataxius especially love.
Yeah.
So just like in our normal Arabic numerals, we have, we have the 16's place. So in Arabic numerals, this would be the 10's place, and then the next digit beneath that would be the 1's place. So
so the way that I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when we count using base 10, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then when we get to 10, we get pushed over into a new column, the 10's column. But when counting in Phyrexian, you count all the way up to what we call 15, and then only when we get to 16 do we get pushed into a new column, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're still confused about this, if you just think of the number like 11 as having 1 digit, I think that would be clearer.
Yeah, and that's in hexadecimal. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F.
Exactly.
And then the number F is a letter. Oh, the letter F is a number 50. You can tell this is really not my wheelhouse. My goodness me. What are some of the advantages of working in base 16? You said it's good for doubling. Are there other applications that are important with base 16?
Well, it's just easy to compute in if your computers are, binary. If you've got, things that are on and off.
Okay. And it's not a system that we decided to use mainly because we have 10 fingers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If only we had 16 fingers. If only we had 16 fingers, it'd be much easier to do maths, I understand. tell us about what we can see on these screens here and the way that the numbers are actually represented when they're written down.
Yeah, sure. So, so we wanted this to be able to, just like the normal glyphs, there's the primary radical, that's the big horizontal line, and then there's a secondary radical, which is the little bit. We wanted the little bit to be written in one smooth motion. If you had like a little claw, and you were scratching this onto like stone or a piece of paper.
So you can see that there's the sort of the line that goes down the middle, and then when you're writing a number, you put a little line across, and then depending on sort of which quartile it's in and how many lines there are in that quartile, that's how you count up. And then making bigger numbers, obviously, is just stacking them together. And we can sort of see there how 16 is built, 17, 33, all the rest of it. Again, even this sort of stuff is going beyond my level of expertise. But what else can you tell us? Are there other details about the Phyrexian number system that people might find interesting?
Yeah, so actually, the first proposal for how to do the Phyrexian number system was to use a Roman numerals type system. But Roman numerals have this a tremendous drawback, which is that they're great for representing approximate amounts. So if you want to say, oh, I need like 100 of those things, that's great. But if Jin Cataxius is like, I need to measure out 37 milliliters of glistening oil, like, that's a lot of digits.
37, that's XXXVII. Not a very efficient way to represent a number, no.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of efficiency, actually, this is something that, again, we chatted about while I was asking you some of these questions about the language. Phyrexians are all about efficiency, right?
Yes. In fact, they're so efficient that they don't have to go to classes to learn this.
Oh, yeah, right. Tell us about this.
Yeah, they learn the numbers and the alphabet and the language as a whole through the glistening oil as a part of their completion. It's the reason that the modern new Phyrexians can use the same language as Yawgmoth's Phyrexians, even though there was no like real connection there. It was carried, their entire culture was carried along through the glistening oil.
If only it was that easy to learn a language, just like you wouldn't need Duolingo, you just drink a bottle. Yeah, you just drink a bottle of oil and that's it. You're done. You just learn a new language that way. But in terms of efficiency as well, when it comes to the actual written language, you were talking me through how Phyrexians are able to compress an enormous amount.
I don't know, Riley. I think you're getting ahead of yourself. I'm getting ahead of myself to the big reveal. Okay. I don't think our crowd's ready for the big reveal. All right. We can come to that in just a second. Let's talk about some of the other aspects of the Phyrexian language then, and the way that I guess it reflects Phyrexian culture, right? Yeah. Because I think for many who don't get too into the nitty-gritty lore and flavor of these cards, the Phyrexians are just you know, generic villains, right? But as someone who has worked with the language extensively, MK, as someone who knows an enormous amount about the Phyrexians, tell us more about how Phyrexian culture, I guess, is represented through their language. Well, Bella actually hit on it a little bit when she was talking about the numerals, and that's that both the numerals and the alphabet is designed to be able to be written with 3 claws.
Right.
You have your middle claw writing the voice line, which is the center line, and then you have 2 claws to write the primary glyph and the primary and secondary radicals on the glyph, and they can be written with 1 hand and 3 claws, which was more typical of the old Phyrexians. They had less manual dexterity than modern Phyrexians do. Modern Phyrexians write with a stylus, like they don't need to write it with their claws, but there is some interesting aspects of the language that existed because of that manual dexterity requirement in it. Like the old Phyrexians were unable to do some of those star radicals because that takes like quite a bit of manual dexterity, and they instead would do what looks a little bit like an @ symbol, but it's a little spiral shape. And Vorinclex also uses this because of the lack of manual dexterity.
Interesting. Okay, so the way that I understand it is the language is written with a sort of a line down the middle, and it's usually vertical, although not always, right?
It can be both. It can start horizontal, go to vertical. It can start vertical, go to horizontal. And
so there's a sort of a line that goes down the middle, and then they use those other claws to like make these. What did you, Bella? They were called radicals, were they? The little shapes and flicks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the big piece in the alphabet. That's your primary radical. You'd use that probably with your left claw if you've got 3 little claws. And then the tiny symbol, that's your secondary radical. You'd use your right claw for that one.
This is fascinating to think about just how much detail, how much, just a huge amount of thought has gone into not just creating this language, but also talking about how this language in universe is written and that sort of thing. I talked before about the Phyrexians being almost seen as like just generic bad guys, right? I think that's a perspective that many people would fairly have if they didn't delve too deep into Phyrexian lore. Bella, tell us, MK, tell us a little bit more about Phyrexian, the fact that you were telling me before about how they have like slang.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to hear more about this.
There has been changes in the Phyrexian language over time since Yawgmoth. Like I mentioned, that the old Phyrexians used the little squiggly. There are other changes that the new Phyrexians do, and one of them, my favorite actually, is that Urabrask talks in slang. Urabrask is pretty sassy and a bit sarcastic. And you can see that here, up here, in the flavor text of Urabrask the Hidden. He's quoted saying, "Let them be." But that's not, that sounds very formal in English. That's not what he says in Phyrexian. He says, "Prosoj lo." And so, what does that break down to? That second word, lo, well, that's a tense and mood marker. That's complicated. Don't need to know about it now. But what y'all need to know is that that usually comes at the front of the sentence because it indicates tense and mood. He doesn't put it at the front of the sentence. It indicates, lo, indicates that he's giving a command. And so he says, "Prasuj," which is "let them be," which he can say in one word. And then he pauses, and they're looking at him stunned, like, "What did you just say?" And he goes, "Duh."
Right. So
like,
it adds a different sort of, an entirely different, not meaning, but like a different tone or vibe to what he's saying based on, and this isn't something we think about, the idea that they will have things like slang, things like attitude, or as you said, sassiness, like even sarcasm.
It's like he ends it with like, "That was an order, duh." I like to say that Urabrask speaks like a professor who knows what he's saying and expects you to understand what he's saying without actually like completing it. So he speaks in like short sentences, and he uses a lot of slang and like modified words that he just expects you to know.
You're the one who's going to join the dots there and figure that one out. I want to come back to a point that you made there, and maybe this is where we can move on to talking about some of the very exciting unrevealed details about this language here. This is a little bit beyond my pay grade. I've done my best to understand what we're talking about here, but I know that the people looking for these crunchy details about Phyrexian are really going to enjoy what's coming up here as we start to talk about some of the aspects of the language, Bella, that really give it its efficiency. We talked about how efficient the Phyrexians are, how much they love to cram information into as small package as possible. You said they can say, "Let them be," in one word. Bella, as we move on now to talk about some of these unrevealed details of Phyrexian, as we talk about tense and mood markers and we talk about relational infixes, these are ways that the Phyrexian language is able to put lots of information into a very small space.
Yeah, exactly. Jin Cataxius loves this. It means he can waste less ink, be more efficient.
Well, let's have a look at some of these things here.
All right, you think they're ready for
this? I think they're ready for it. Let's talk about this. So this, for many people, will be like, "Oh my goodness, I have no idea what's going on here." But for those who have been waiting to learn what some of the stuff going on in this, people haven't figured out. What's going on. These are the hidden gems of the Phyrexian language that no one has gotten across.
Yes, these are the infixes. So all Phyrexian words, the second to last letter is a vowel, but it is indicated like in the lexicon with a hyphen because it changes based on who the speaker is and who the speaker is speaking to. So I know this chart up here is like very complicated. We're going to use the verb to smack or to hit, which is solemn. And solemn changes if I'm saying "I hit you" or "I hit them." "I hit you" starts from the first person and goes to the second person. So if you look up on the chart, it says starting from pointing towards. And so first person to second person. You see that there's a U there. Listen, that indicates the vowel in front of this undergoes vowel harmony, and that's like another half an hour talk, so we're not going to get into it. Just trust me on that one. But the A is what takes the place of that hyphen in the word solemn. So solam is "I hit you."
Right. So instead of using pronouns, instead of saying "I" and "you," you can actually pack all of that information into one word. And then if those pronouns change, if it's you hit them or they hit them or whatever, you can use which person is starting with and which person it's pointing towards and pack all that information into a single word.
Yeah, and you see, so you have first person, that's me, I. Second person, you. Third person could be the audience. But fourth person is kind of interesting and a bit complicated in Phyrexian. Bella, what's fourth person?
Right, so fourth person is the thing that is not first, not second, and not third person. You can think of it as the thing over there. Or, in this case, I see some of you guys with cameras out, so it'd be the audience's Reddit post about this slide.
Right, so it's first person.
First person.
First person. I'm the main character of this universe. First person, second person, third person, and then anyone who is maybe watching a recording of this or reading about what is happening here, they're one step removed. Is that right? Not quite.
Not quite. It's about the way you're using the people who are one step removed in the sentence.
Okay.
So it's not really relative to this situation, but it's relative to the sentence. Right. For instance, the watchers at home are enjoying the slide. They're still third person.
Okay.
So it would be relative. So if the audience is third person, it would be the audience's thing. If we had a sentence where first person, second person, and the audience was used as third person, and the audience was doing something, what they were doing that to, that's fourth person.
Oh, okay. So it's still sort of like one step away. Well, I mean, this whole thing is. I'm doing my best here. I'm doing my best.
You're keeping up all right.
Yeah. I'm okay. I hope so. Yeah. Go on, sorry, Bella.
Yeah, fourth person is basically, you can think of fourth person as the point of view to use when you have run out of point of views for everybody else in the situation.
Oh, so it's a backup. It's a spare.
Yeah,
sure. All right. You're going to give it to me. All right, excellent.
All right.
So this is a foundational aspect of the Phyrexian language, and this is something that people maybe have struggled with when it's come to like translating these cards, because it is so different from the way that we experience language as English speakers.
Yes. Just like how in our earlier example of Urabras, that he was able to say "let them be," and he commanded his subordinates to let them be with one word. He said that because he was able to change the infix to indicate that.
Yeah. So so the two pronouns that, there's the pronoun.
He's telling his subordinates to let them be. He's telling you to let them be.
But that's all one word. What is it when you instruct someone to do something? There's like an instruction. It's an imperial, or it's an imperative.
Oh, imperative. That's what you're
I did some stuff. I did some homework. And there's the imperative, the subject, and the verb all crammed into one word.
Well, the imperative is part of the tense.
I was really trying, man. I nearly got there. Anyway, what can people take away from this? Bella, tell us about how important this information is when it comes to Phyrexian. What are the new understandings that Phyrexian language nerds are going to enjoy now that this sort of stuff is out in the open?
Right, so another interesting fact about this chart is that we use this to do possessives. So for example, like your deck, that would be second person to a second person.
Right, okay, and this is a way that I guess people can construct sentences, phrases, and also translate ones that have already been written.
Figure out the ones that we've put out that they haven't translated yet.
Right, so this is going to be a very important key in figuring these out. Right, and this is a tool that you use when translating and building stuff in Phyrexian?
Yes. Oh yeah, every single time we have a translation come up, we pull up this chart.
Pull up this one, okay, well there you go. People have really had something special shared with them today. Should we move on now and teach people some phrases in Phyrexian? We thought we're not going to do things like, where is the library or anything like that, the pen of my art. No, we're going to teach useful phrases to those of you, so just phrases that Magic players are going to have in everyday use here, how to conduct essentially a game of Magic in Phyrexian, starting with the phrase, your turn.
Yeah,
kick us off?
Used to pass the turn, but it does directly translate to your turn, or the turn is yours. And it is the first word, lo.
Lo.
And then the second word for turn is ro, nug.
All right, so we're going to, just to avoid personal embarrassment, we as an entire audience are going to have a go at this, all right? So you're going to join me in trying this one. Let's try it again. So it's the first one was lo.
Lo.
Nice and easy. Lo. Lo. We can hear them. Yep. Lo.
Ron.
Ron.
Ug. Ug.
Ug.
Yeah.
So lo.
Ron.
Ron.
Lo.
Ug.
Ron. Ug.
Lo. Ron. Ug.
Yeah. Your turn.
Perfect. Easy. Your turn. Lo. Ron. Ug.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Bella, let's have a look at the next one here.
Yeah, it's your turn, Bella.
It's your turn,
Yeah,
Bella.
well,
Let's go.
maybe I didn't really understand you.
Yeah, maybe you
mumbled a
pronounced
little
it
bit.
wrong.
I'm trying my best. All right, what do we got here? So this is my turn. So this is if you're asking your opponent, it's my turn, yeah? All right.
Yeah, so we again start with the tense and moon marker. This one is no. No. You can think of this as the same N as in wing or lung. And then the second word is ronog.
Ronog. All right, so we'll try that one. Is nyo?
No.
Nyo?
No.
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 Nyo?
Okay. Ro.
Ron?
No.
Nog.
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 Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They're leaving you hanging, Riley.
No?
No.
Ron?
No.
Nog.
Yeah.
I'm hitting that G too hard.
It's three of the same vowel in there,
Okay.
but yes.
Yeah, all right. That's slightly different from your turn in that we've changed one of the vowels in the rono.
Yeah, I think, if we put up the next slide, I think we got a side-by-side of them where they can see the differences.
Right. Okay, so
yeah.
the first one had the letter U,
Yes.
which is changed to the O, and that indicates that something about the word has fundamentally changed.
Yeah, the U is for second person to second person. That's what we use when you say your rather than a pronoun. And the O is first person to first person.
Right, because you're talking about my turn. There you go. Okay, so that's
not the only thing that changed, though.
Okay, go. Yep.
The other thing that changed is the tense and moon marker. We've talked about these a whole bunch. There's a giant chart of these. We're not going to talk about all of them. But the important part is that we use the no to represent that this is a question. So that way, even if you're not pitching it correctly, your listener can still understand that you're asking.
Right, so it's kind of puts a question mark at the start of the sentence almost.
Yeah.
Right, you understand it's a question as soon as the sentence begins.
Yeah, there's still a question mark for written Phyrexian, but if you're talking kind of fast, the no really clarifies that you are.
It's an interrogative.
Yeah.
Interrogative?
Yeah.
Here we go. He's done it again. He's done it again. All right, beautiful. Thank you very much. Let's move on now and have a look at our third. So we got your turn, my turn. Of course, a foundational aspect of playing Magic the Gathering, going to combat. Bella, talk us through what
It's
we
my
Bella's turn.
Yep.
So now I want to go to combat. We're going to get in for some damage. All right, so I know it looks like an E. It's not an E noise. It goes A. Okay, so we'll do K, and then we'll do tuo, kok.
Okay, let's do this together. Here we go. So do it again.
K.
K.
K, yeah.
K.
Tuo, kok.
Kok.
Great.
With like a sound?
Well, it's not quite that far back.
Okay.
It's more of a
All right. So
K.
K.
Tuo, kok.
Kok.
Perfect.
All right.
Well,
there we go. Perfect. She says, love that. No, okay,
hate to put the brakes on here, but you're not completed yet, so
we got a fun little thing over the K.
No, there's one of those.
What does that mean?
Yeah, there's a consonant in there that you're not able to say, Riley. In fact, none of us are able to say.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about this, MK. Thanks for the reminder.
It's because we're much closer to completion than Riley is.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, with our inferior fleshy mouths, we are unable to properly clank this K. So maybe if you were walking around with little finger symbols, you could do it.
Well, my mum's got like old, she's got fillings that are made of like gold or something. So if she clanked them together really hard, would that do it?
I don't think that'll be loud enough. It's very prestigious to clank very loudly.
All right, what if you were a very famous rapper and you had like grills?
Maybe.
There we go.
Yeah,
That's
there
what
you go.
So really, the closest Phyrexian is those like people who have like grills. All right. Okay.
And braces.
Yeah. Well, yes. I guess teenagers and rappers around the world ever close to speaking perfect Phyrexian. All right. So that's combat. Let's move on now and have a look at the next one. If we've gone to combat, are we blocking? Of course, we're not blocking.
Yeah,
blocking is for cowards. Absolutely not. Talk us through this one.
So if I don't block, the first word is that upside down E, also not an E. It's a schwa and it's an sound. So it's And now we have a couple of consonants that are hard to say. I know you were really trying hard to get that glottal stop in the beginning, but you're going to have to do 2 in this sentence.
Okay.
And that G with the little caret on top, also a metallic consonant.
Okay. So again, we're going to have to pop the grills in to get this one. All right. Give it to us anyway, as close as we can get.
Kafa, ka.
Because there's a little like, so a glottal stop is that little like sound, like almost like a.
You can think of it. It's not really a sound as much as more of the absence of air going through. You make this noise by cutting off all airflow with the back of your tongue, all the way at the back of your throat. You can think of this as the pause in or the difference between a mountain and mountain.
Right, okay, sure. Yeah, the example you used to try to explain it to me earlier was in Hawaii.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Is
That's
that
also a good example.
That's a similar thing. Okay, sure. So like, uh-oh. Yeah, right, you kind of stop the air
Right.
coming out. Okay, all right, well, let's try
All
this
right,
one.
so we have-
I'll embarrass myself again in front of this crowd. That's fine. That's what I'm here to do.
So we have ul,
That's easy. Yep.
kafak, ka,
Okay, I think I can get the kafa.
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 Yeah, no, you got to gloss stop there, but you got to do the second syllable. So kafak, ka, and do a.
Kafa. Ga.
Yeah, no, you got it that time. Both glottal stops.
Very good. Okay, easy peasy. And one last one. Now, we wanted to, you know, we talk about very common phrases here in Magic, stuff that's going to come up all the time, and we want to think, well, okay, what's a phrase that we're going to use routinely in most games of Magic that we play? We've got a nice long one here to share with people that I think is just going to come in handy day-to-day playing Magic. We can bring it up on the screen here. Let's get into this one.
All right.
Which one of you wants to take it?
We got this.
All over
You
it.
don't got this.
No, I certainly do.
got
I'm not under any illusions that I've got this, but we can have a go at this. All right, so give us a look at what we're saying.
First word, you've been saying lo all night. You can say it again. Lo.
Low.
And then we have par, th, u, jun.
Give me that one again.
Par, th, u, jun.
Par,
Th, u, jun.
jeune. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I got that really well. It's just
Yeah.
you didn't hear it because
All right, so
a lot of echoes and stuff.
that
yeah,
was
go
just
on.
the warm-up because the next word has a Welsh consonant in it.
Oh, the Welsh. they're always up to tricks with double L's and all that sort of stuff. Okay.
So we
right.
have enna, ziv. No? No?
You gotta really smile.
You gotta smile. You're
This is
trying.
good.
No.
This is good.
No.
That's perfect.
But you're trying.
How was your weekend in Philadelphia, Riley? Really good. Really good. What did you do? Just normal things that you do at a convention. Just hissed at people on stage.
But, so yeah. Yeah, close. And then it's followed by an SH sound. So
Okay.
yeah. That SH sound.
So that's just the sound that, like, when my cat hisses at me and I tell it to be quiet, it goes shh.
I mean, maybe you
Yeah.
don't do it like that.
All right.
But
Shh.
I'm sure you don't do it in Phyrexian
No.
because that sh sound, also a metallic consonant. That's the sound of scissors.
Okay. Oh, right. That's the what did you call it? The scraping type sound thing?
Nah, nope, that isn't a slice consonant.
Not
this
a
is
slice
special
one. Just another one.
Just
Okay.
another
All right.
one.
So give us one. It's the
Enna, ziv.
in Zuv.
That N is like a further back N.
Oh, like the one in Ngatang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind
Okay.
of like
Yeah.
the one earlier. So
Okay.
Enna, ziv.
Okay. Yep. Perfect.
All
Very
right,
good.
all right.
Good
Last one. Another Welsh consonant for
Perfect. Yep. Good.
you. T, shirat.
I can do that one. Ter Shirat.
You got, yeah.
Shirat.
It's aspirated, whereas the first one didn't. The is.
All right. Okay. So just
Voice.
because now we've all
Voice.
got it. Perfect. From go to woe.
All
Take
right.
it from the beginning, and we're all just going
Take
to
it
say
from
it
the beginning.
as one. Let's go.
All right. Lo, par, thuku, jun, inga, yiv, te, shirat.
You ready? I mean, you guys. Let's
Right, yeah.
take it away. So what have we just learned to say? What have we just learned to say? Let's have a look at the very handy, useful,
Most
everyday
useful one.
magic phrase that we've learned to say. We can bring it up on the screen. It is mental misstep. Your soul ring. I mean, something that comes up routinely
Most useful.
in games of Magic, certainly. I'm sure people have questions to ask, but before we wrap things up here, I want to talk about, I guess, the broader impact of having such a rich and deep understanding of this language. This is something that I think very easily could have just been a kind of boilerplate effort, right? We just like slap something together, some silly words that you might, like a kid might invent it as a code when they were young, and just say that's done. But Bella, what are some of the things that having such an in-depth understanding of this language, what does it give to the game of Magic?
Well, I think Mary Kathryn is going to give this very heartfelt spiel about how it adds so much to the lore, but really, I just think it's a neat problem or puzzle to solve.
Well, but I think that's something that attracts a lot of Magic players, right? Like, even if we're not talking about flavour, maybe we can talk flavour with you, but like, Bella, as someone who's obviously very interested in mathematics, someone who has a very analytical mind, like, I think many Magic players are drawn to puzzles, problem solvings, decoding things, right? So Phyrexian offers something to them, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's talk about the flavor aspect of it as well. I mean, how does this aid in things like world building, in understanding Phyrexians as villains or as even just characters in the multiverse?
Yeah, I think that it really grounds the Phyrexians. The Phyrexians are, by nature, otherworldly.
Yeah.
They are not a threat that like we as humans have ever faced, but they do have motivations that are motivations that we've faced and experienced ourselves. And so to have a language and to have culture takes characters that could have been like one-note kind of B-horror Machiavellian villains and makes them into something so much more than that by grounding them in something that is real.
I think it's very easy to lose sight of, you know, when as you say, when building a world, if you want to put villains in it that actually really do feel
scary.
Like scary, right? They've got to be more than just a weird-looking thing in a picture. They've got to be more than just spikes and teeth. Like having, as you say, motivations. It sounds weird, but even just like having culture, you know, having aspirations, having ideals and goals that are expressed in this way, it adds a lot of depth. It puts a lot of meat on the bones, I guess. Yeah.
It brings something that is so far away from us and so alien suddenly a lot closer to us and a lot closer to home, which I think really contributes it to being as scary as they are. And
also looks really cool on the cards as well. Like that's it also looks really cool on like the baseball shirt over on the merch thing that's got like Phyrexian language lines on it. It's just a very
hours.
Took hours. Did you have a part in that?
No, well, everything that was translated was by Bella and I.
So all of this stuff that's been done.
Yes, all of this was
stuff.
I mean, who else would have done it?
I guess that's a very good point. My goodness me. Well, that's quite an effort that you put together for
everything.
all. Well, you've been working very hard.
All the cards.
So when R&D were like, hey, we're going back to Phyrexia, you two were like, all right, well, roll up the sleeves because it's business time for us. Holy moly! All right.
Yeah.
So we've got some time to answer questions here if you two are up for it.
Yeah.
If you want to field some questions from the audience. If you have questions that you'd like to ask of MK and Bella, our panel here, we certainly do want to hear from you. The one thing that I will say, however, is that these two are not able to provide translations. So if you've got a phrase or something you're interested in having translated into Phyrexian, that's not something we can do here because that's going to be interesting to exactly one person, which is you, which is not something that we're super interested in spending a lot of time on. But for those of you who have questions, we're going to get things set up at the microphone and field some questions from the audience. But I believe, while we're waiting for that, we have a special guest here. Paul from Beadle and Grimm is coming up with a product here that we actually haven't had the chance to talk about on the panel just yet. But what are we looking at here?
Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
Sure. There you go.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
Yeah. So I don't have a microphone, so you should probably tell them a little bit about what this is.
Yeah, so this super cool journal is about our someone at the Tolarian Academy trying to decode the language, and it includes a bunch of additional details, including stuff we didn't really have time to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, I can just very quickly. It includes an in-world journal at the beginning of the investigator who translated the shard that was discovered. And then the back part of it is all of the stuff that Mary Kathryn and Bella have been working on for so long, including a glossary, including all of the tenses that they didn't get to cover today. It ended up, we thought it was going to be 12 pages, and it ended up being 48.
A sizable, a hefty tome. Well, thanks so much, Paul from Beadle and Grimm, for coming and joining us. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And well, that'll be something for all the language nerds to get stuck into if they're wanting to get their teeth into some more of the details and really dive into some of the stuff that we've talked about today. All right, looks like we've got some people who want to answer some questions. The microphone should be on, mate, so please come up.
Let's try it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the panel. This was lovely. I'm just curious of all the very strange and esoteric tense and mood markers that are in Phyrexian, if you all have a favorite that you like to write for the Phyrexians?
Oh, I definitely have a favorite because Bella always calls me out because I always try to translate sentences in the jussive, which is like the must, you must do this, and Bella always makes fun of me for it.
It's also Elish Norn's favorite, probably.
It's also Elish Norn's favorite, so yes, I do.
My favorite is, it's probably Ushta, which is the narrative past used for storytelling.
Oh yeah, Kapa is the one that I always use.
Okay.
Is it on this one? I think I'm on
it is.
Yeah, no, it's right here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Next question.
So I have a background in linguistics. I have 1.5 degrees, and I'm wondering, when you were talking about the infixes for the verbs, was that a little bit inspired by the way that Latin declension is created?
It's almost like she predicted the story you wanted to tell. So it's inspired by a lot of things. That included the like the Phyrexian language itself came from about 12 different languages it takes inspiration from, but yes, that was a lot of what went into the infixes in it.
Hi, so I'm a huge fan of Phyrexian lore, and I've always really enjoyed thinking about Phyrexian characters as full people with the capacity for both good and evil who live in a dystopia where they're controlled by their leaders. So I was wondering, how could rebellious Phyrexians use their language as a locus of resistance by giving themselves the phrases and words to conceptualize rebellion, which their leaders don't allow them to access?
Well, I think Urabrask strongly encourages innovation in his minions, and Elish Norn is forever aggravated by Urabrask's antics. Like, Elish Norn would never do something as risque as putting low at the end of a sentence.
So this sort of sounds like, in English, the debate between like prescriptivists and, I don't know what the opposite of a prescriptivist is, the people who like refuse to use the word literally to mean figuratively, and then the people who say, well, language can be whatever you want, right? I'm not trying to speak for you or anything, but it sounds like you asking, does the Phyrexian language actually even have the tools, or does it have the ways for those who resist the rule of the praetors? Is Phyrexian language set up to support rebellion?
There are certainly ways that you can like be subversive in the Phyrexian language, if that's what you're asking. Depending on like the order that you list names, you can be you could give a message that is a bit unintended and like, oh, I'm going to be disrespectful to this person, so I'm going to put their name in a different order. So yes, there are ways like that especially the Red Phyrexians, when speaking, would be able to communicate that.
But it might be, I mean, so in Orwell's 1984, the final goal of the party is to remove even the possibility for rebellion and subversion by removing words that indicate that sort of thing with the form of Newspeak, the new language that was invented which at the time of the novel wasn't actually fully in place, but the idea was it would be impossible to be a rebellion because you wouldn't have you wouldn't have words that you could use to express rebellion. So is there an element of that in Phyrexian? Is it that control the language?
I think the five sons on Mirrodin have caused the Praetors to diverge. So Urabrask is not the only rebellious one, right? For instance, Shieldred wants to stick closer to the roots of original Phyrexian, and if you look really close at one of the I forget the card name.
Ambulatory Edifice.
Okay, that one. Shieldred actually uses a different sentence ending hook that was more commonly seen in Old Phyrexian with Yawgmoth and his crew.
Does that go somewhere in answering your question? I'm sorry, I definitely didn't mean to speak for you, but I was also interested in some of the questions you were hitting on there.
Yeah, thank you for bringing depth to Phyrexia.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions here. We've still got some time, so go ahead, mate.
Hi.
I had the same response when I heard myself. It's fine.
So, for other fantasy-created languages, such as like Klingon, for example, they've been translated into a lot of things.
Could you lean forward? We can't hear you very well.
Sorry. So for other made-up languages, such as like Klingon, for example, it's been translated into other things. And one issue that came up, for example, with that other language was translating to Shakespeare. There is no to be in Klingon. So I was wondering if in Phyrexia there was any translation hiccups that you had a personal favorite of. We can't translate this into Phyrexian.
Well, I think there's never anything that's like, we can't translate this. I think the Phyrexians would just generally word things slightly differently. So for instance, Mary Kathryn actually came up with this verb. It's in all will be one, if you want to...
Oh, become rather than to be?
Yeah, how being one is a verb. Of course being one is a verb. Like, it's Alice Norman's favorite topic.
So Phyrexian also doesn't have a to be verb, and so being one is its own verb that is very separate from like what you would normally consider the same with Klingon, which is to be.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
So when can we expect the full works of Shakespeare in Phyrexian?
Ooh, give me a couple of years.
Couple of years? All right, there you go. You heard it here first. Couple of years' time, we'll be back at a Magic Con with the full collected works of Shakespeare in Phyrexian. Go ahead, Matt.
So you alluded how we use base 10 as humans because we have 10 fingers, but there have been civilizations that use base 12. We'll use binary for computers. Why base 16 for Phyrexians?
Just because it's easy to express a lot of different numbers in, right? So you don't want to use binary because binary digits get super duper long, right? And then you just go up from the powers of 2 from there, right? So, right, 4 is such similar problems. We considered 8 for a little bit, but we decided that 16 being a square, we could do the 4 cycles of 4, and also like you could keep numbers relatively short.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. So, Crick, son of Yawgmoth, is there a correct pronunciation for it as non-metally teeth people, or can we can we say his name correctly?
There's a glottal stop in it, which, as we said, is clicked. So you'll just have to do your best.
Yeah, nah.
Thank you.
Just bring your grills to your next game of Commander, and you'll be able
Like
to.
a pair of scissors, some finger symbols.
Yeah, finger symbols. There we go. That's good. Like the little thing. Yeah, you do like that. Yeah, or just a hunk of metal on the table. You whack it with a hammer. Go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
Hi. So I actually have a question specifically for Bella because we were on the creative text team for All Will Be One together. So I remember during the process you involved a lot of the just like the grammar and various things like that into the flavor text especially. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about that for those who didn't get to see the process.
Oh, gee. Are you MJ?
I'm Jake.
You're Jake. Okay. Lovely to meet you in person. Let's see. I think once upon a time they changed the art for DRS, but once upon a time the art for DRS matched the flavor text very beautifully. I can't think of another example off the top of my head.
There was the card that my favorite quote.
Oh yeah. Well, there's this black card, right? This instant called Offer Immortality, which is in Shieldred's quote, "They fear death even as we offer immortality." And what does it do? It grants you immortality, of course. It makes your creature indestructible.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like we've got, is it 2 more people there with questions? Yep. Great. Excellent. All right.
Hi, I actually have a lexicon kind of question. So I kind of have noticed that there are some words that trying to translate, that I think have similar meaning and actually involve a lot of the same consonants. So I just want to know if we're on the right track. Like I noticed with kafa being up on the screen and then kapa being also used as a tense mood marker. So I'm just wondering, like, when you guys are coming up with lexicon, is that something that you do? You like look at words that have a similar meaning and reshape them? Like, am I on the right track?
There are a lot of words that, so it's not like they're not just random consonants. There is word crafting involved, and there are words that are related to other words. I'll tell you that.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, I do have another tip for you, though. Yeah, which is that we very rarely split up a word into 2 pieces. We often will mash words together, but we will rarely like squeeze in a word in the middle of another word.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Awesome.
It looks like one more person's got a question here.
Hi, I also have a background in linguistics. I was curious specifically for Mary, if you're familiar with Guy Deutscher's Through the Language Glass book. There's a question posed, how much does language influence the culture, and how much does culture influence the language? Which one is it? And obviously it can only be both rather than one or the other, or neither. My question is, since Riley touched on it earlier, how much does language influence the culture, and how much does culture influence the language?
Well, quite a bit, as we kind of touched a little bit on earlier. So a good example is that Phyrexian is very hierarchical. So is the language. Unsurprisingly, the languages matches the hierarchical structure that we see with like the paraders, and especially that's the first example that comes to mind. How does language influence the culture? I think like actually their talk earlier about how language, like the Phyrexian language has evolved on New Phyrexia to, especially in the red Phyrexians, is the most interesting way, because they have gotten rid of a lot of the what they consider as like contrivances, like they're like, this is useless stuff in the language, and the language is already like very efficient, but they want to use it in ways that like Elish Norn does not want to use it, and you can see that in how they're very fast and loose with word order in particular. We saw the example with the tense and mood marker, but that's not the only way that they use it. And it ends up being like their culture uses it in a very different way than any of the other colors of Phyrexians do.
Thank you.
Oh, and
All right.
no, her name is Mary Kathryn, not Mary.
Thanks, Bella.
I'm sorry.
All right, well, just two things remain for us to do here. I want to, first of all, thank you for being part of this panel, but you let me know that you'll be available for more questions. You're making an appearance at the Concept to Compleat gallery. I've mentioned this a couple of times to the crowd, but if you don't know, there is a gallery exhibition. Entrance is included with the badge that you've got, so you can go and there's no extra cost involved to go and see this gallery. And you're going to be there, is it today?
Yes, today.
From 3:30 till 5. So if you've got more questions, or if you've got a question that maybe might, not have come up here in the panel, whatever else, but it's still no translations.
No translations.
No translations. But if you want to come, if you want to chat with either Bella or MK, you can do that at the Concept to Compleat gallery, 3:30 to 5. But my friends, I want you to join me in thanking these two for being here on the stage and talking us through this. And if you wouldn't mind, MK was hoping to be able to get a selfie on the stage, so if everyone wouldn't mind getting up and about, so she can take a selfie with her. And would you want the two of you in the selfie?
Yeah, of course I want Bella in the selfie.
Okay, I'll just make sure. There we go. All right. So big smiles so everyone can see. Yeah, there we go. Look, there we go. Love to see that.
Thank you
so much.
Thank
you so much. A big round of applause once again for MK and Bella from Wizards. I do hope you've enjoyed this panel, my friends. And as you can see on the screen there, in less than half an hour now, Game Nights Live. Game Nights Live coming up at 3 o'clock. We're looking forward to having your company then for some Commander with Jimmy and Josh and all the rest of them. So thanks for sticking around for the Phyrexian Phylology panel. We'll see you back here on the main stage in half an hour or so.